Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's 2020, y'all. We did it. Can you believe it? You are listening to the Just Listen to Yourself podcast here on the FCB Radio Network. Of course, I am your host, Kiradavis, and this is a podcast where I take your favorite hot topics, hot button issues, and I take your favorite talking points about those and I draw them out to their logical conclusion. It's an exercise in persuasion at times. It's an exercise in thought, but mostly it is just an exercise in us getting to know our own thoughts and our own beliefs better. Because I think we actually have more calm and rational discussions with each other when we can feel confident in our own points of view. When we feel confident that we've thought them through very well, then we don't ever feel challenged. We just feel excited by the idea of getting to share our points of view with other people. And it doesn't become a whole situation where someone ends up literally Hitler or a Nazi or blocking someone. So welcome back to the show. I took a little break for the Christmas season and the holidays, but I am back. It is 2020. I cannot believe we made it here. Guys, my son is 17. He's about to graduate school this year, about to graduate high school. And I can remember him being born and me and my husband being in the hospital room, like mere hours after he was born, and figuring out that he would be in the graduating class of 2020. Which we thought was kind of cool. But also we were like, 2020 is never going to come. We're never going to be that old. Damn. I am that old, guys. That's it. I am literally that old. I can't believe it. I know we talk a lot about turning over new leaf for the new year. I certainly have some resolutions that I'm struggling with and that I intend to attack. Sometimes, some years I don't do resolutions because I just think they're silly or I feel like it's putting too much pressure on myself. And some years I do. And I think you can do that too. I don't think you need to take one position or the other. Maybe you change your mind this year and you're like, you know what I do? I want a challenge. I want to do paleo, or I want to work out every day, or there's nothing wrong with using the new year as an inspiration to try something new. But if you want to be the type of person who's just honest with yourself and saying, I don't think I can do it. I think it's good. I've got enough going on in my life. I've got enough pressure. I'm not going to put the pressure on myself of having to achieve this resolution. I'll just, do my best to meet my goals this year. Either way is fine. I want to give you validation and permission to attack the new year in whatever way you see fit. Don't worry about all the Facebook posts you see criticizing one way or the other. Don't worry about all the posts you see on Instagram. You can decide for yourself what this new year looks like for you. But I hope that it's filled with much prosperity and love and the whole breadth of the human experience. I've learned, unfortunately, too intimately over the last month how precious life is and how short it can be, and we just don't know when our time is going to be up. So I don't want to minimize the loss that some people feel around this time of year or pretend that those things won't happen to you or around you. We will all experience some type of pain. We all will experience some type of suffering. I mean, no one gets out of this life alive. So, but outside of that, or along with that, I hope also that you will find joy this year and love and prosperity and all of the things that go with being a human being. You can't escape the bad things, but those bad things often make those good things so much better. Okay, so to kick off the new year, I thought I would start with this topic that I've been talking about a little bit before Christmas, and it was kind of controversial. So I thought, okay, this is a great topic to bring to Just Listen to Yourself, because I think the JLTY listeners will at least get a kick out of this topic. I'm really curious to know what you guys think about it, though. So today we're going to talk about should women propose marriage to men? Should women be the ones to get on one knee, get a ring, and ask a man to marry her? Now, this is prompted by the news that Lindsey Vonn, the skier, the blonde, remember that blonde girl who used to date Tiger Woods? And she's, I'm sorry, Lindsay, you deserve to be described as more than just a blonde girl. She's an Olympic athlete, y'all. But I'm just being a little facetious here. But the blonde girl, the hot blonde girl, she proposed to her boyfriend, who's a hockey player, I don't know. I don't watch a lot of hockey these days, but he's a pretty big hockey player, and they seem very cute together. She got a lot of publicity for proposing because she tweeted out, I proposed to him. Men deserve engagement rings too. And I thought, I don't know about this. This is an interesting question. I come to find out that they were already engaged. She actually was just kind of re-asking. She just wanted to give him a ring too. So it wasn't really that big of a risk, but it did spark this thought. And I've seen a couple of pages on Facebook. A lot of times they're pages that are kind of Black centric, African American centric pages. But I was trolling Facebook and found one, and that was kind of the main question asked in the Facebook group: should women propose to men? And there were tons of pictures of women on their knees, women on one knee, not on their knees, you dirty minded boys. Because I know some guys out there are like, oh, that sounds good. On one knee, proposing to men with rings. There was a couple of videos on there where there were women being really excited, and they did the whole proposal thing the way a man would do, walk in the park, balloons, horse-drawn carriage, like whatever. I couldn't believe how many of these things I saw, and I did not think that it was a good look. I'll just be honest. Let's just kick this off, y'all. Let's start with what I think about this. No, absolutely not. Women should not be proposing to men. And when I was watching that Facebook page and those videos and looking at all those pictures, I was thinking to myself, maybe I'm being the one who's outdated here. Maybe I need to change how I look at this. But as I get older, guys, one thing that I've learned to do is trust myself and trust my instincts. And I like to teach that to my kids too. And maybe we'll talk about this at some point on this show, about how we deliberately kill the natural instincts of our children these days in the name of political correctness or social justice or wokeism or whatever. We'll tell our girls they don't need to cross the street when they see a guy and they're walking late at night by themselves and they see a guy coming towards them if he's a certain race. We discourage those girls from crossing the street if she feels uncomfortable because you'll look like a racist. But one of the things that we've been given to protect ourselves in this day and age is our intuition as women. And I say, we shouldn't be beating that intuition out of young women, even if from time to time it does look bad. But look, I would rather my daughter feel a little bit guilty about being judgmental than be dead because she didn't cross the street when she should have. That is the point I'm making here, is that we quash our natural instincts because we think that those instincts are wrong. So I like to listen to myself more. I like to listen to my gut, so to speak. I think that this is always a great test. You can go back and listen to my abortion issue, but that if you want to really know how you should look at abortion, explain what abortion is to a kid. If you want to know the honest truth about what abortion is, explain it to a kid. And you don't need to color it. Just give them the straight facts. Just give them the straight details. Just like describe it like you would, like what happens when you get your appendix out or whatever. There's no way for you to put it that doesn't completely horrify a small child because they're very close to being in the womb, That's the natural reaction. We beat that out of them over the years. We give them fancy words and fancy terms and we try to erase the horror of what it really is. But you can tell how humans instinctually feel about these things by just letting a kid respond to it without coloring their point of view. So when I was looking at that Facebook page, I said to myself, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just old fashioned. Let me look through these posts. Let me read these comments. Let me try to gauge what my gut is saying. But the more I did it, the more I thought, no, I don't like this. I don't like it. It doesn't look right to me. It doesn't feel right to me. So you guys know that I don't think you can just stop at your feelings. I think that's dangerous. I think that's where most people, when they have political discourse and discussions these days, actually stop. They stop at their feelings. But I didn't want to stop at my feelings. I wanted to talk this out. I wanted to explain to myself why I felt that way. And then I wanted to explain to everybody else why I felt that way. So I wrote an article about it. You can go to redstate.com and find it. The article is from my weekly advice column called Unsolicited Advice. And the title of it is Marriage Proposals Should Not Come from Women. So I'm going to tell you guys why I think it's a bad idea for women to propose marriage to men. I think it's important to establish the parameters of this conversation. I had a really fun discussion about this on the radio the other day with my radio partner, Mickey Yamashita. She totally disagrees with me on this issue. So we had a great back and forth. But at the end of it, I realized we might have not carefully enough defined our positions so that we could argue appropriately. So I just want to make sure you all know exactly what I'm talking about when I say, should women propose marriage to men? What I mean is, should a woman be the one to make the big ask? Not the one to bring it up in conversation or to say, hey, I'd like to be married someday. How do you feel about it? Or to gauge where her partner's at. I'm not talking about the conversations you have in a relationship or that you should be having. And we'll get to that. If you're not having these conversations, we're going to get to that. So don't go anywhere. I'm talking about the ask, the romantic proposal, the carriage ride, the balloon, hot air balloon, the engagement ring, the whole to-do. She gets that. She has her best friends record this. She gets down on one knee and she asks you, John, to marry her, Jill. That's what I mean. Should women propose marriage to men? No, absolutely not, in my opinion. Here is why. Number one, men are conquerors. Men need to conquer. This conversation is going to make a lot of you really uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you this right now. But you don't need to worry. You don't need to worry because I'm the one that's going to get all the blowback. But what I want you to do, if you're listening, if you've listened far enough, then I trust you to do this. But what I want you to do is try to set aside those instincts that make you want to go, I can't wait. And just at least let me get the point out. You don't have to agree, but just let me explain my point of view. I don't think it's as bad as maybe you're thinking it is right now. But it sounds bad. But this is advice my beloved mother-in-law, Faith Davis, gives me all the time and has throughout my entire marriage. And she's been a wonderful woman of God who I've looked to as an example of how to be a wife and mother. By the way, her and my father-in-law celebrated 58 years of marriage on New Year's Eve. 58 years. So she knows a little about what she's talking about. But she always tells me, Kira, a man needs to conquer. We make it too easy. He hasn't conquered anything. He hasn't earned anything. It goes against human nature. It goes against the male nature. A lot of times we talk about this in reference to dating. There are a lot of women who are the pursuers, and I don't think that's the way to get what you want, ladies. I do think a man needs to conquer, and he can't really appreciate or be excited by a woman that he doesn't have to work hard for. But this is biological. This is evolutionary. It's spiritual. I can make the case for all three ways that this is really part of the male psyche. So don't think that if you're not a Christian like me that this argument doesn't apply. It absolutely does. I can make the reason biologically and evolutionarily speaking, as well as spiritually. I don't feel like I have to go into the spiritual issue. In the Bible, we have the husband as the head of the household. We do have a very clear relationship between men and women and how that should be set up and how men should pursue and adore and honor women. That's very clear in most of the Bible. The people who tell you that that's not clear have not read most of the Bible. So I'm not here to comment on the veracity of the Bible. So don't let me get sidetracked. Men have always been conquerors. Men are providers. Men are hunters. That's evolutionary. That's evolution talking. Men are hunters. They've always had to go out, beat bears over the head, bring them back, to the cave so that the family can have food and warmth and use the fur for blankets. It's been their job to provide and survive. And so what a man has had to do over the course of human history, what men have had to do is they've had to be able to take risks. So men are risk takers. That's in their nature. It might not always manifest. This is 2020. Okay, so I get it. It doesn't manifest itself in the cave anymore, but it does manifest itself in other ways of your life. And this is if you are a nerd who plays Dungeons and Dragons every day of the week, or if you're like some super duper athlete. This applies to every guy. There is a part of every man who needs and wants to take risks. This bears itself out even if you ask economists, financial planners particularly. What's the difference between how men and women plan? What's the difference between how you help men and women plan their financial futures? Every planner will tell you the same thing. Men like to take risks. They like the stock market. They like to buy and sell. They like the risky stuff. Women are much more likely to invest in long-term, low yield investments like mutual funds, or they'll just do savings accounts. So these are biological, these are psychologically related issues that have consequences in the real world beyond just our conversation about what's a man's role, what's a woman's role. They bear themselves out in how we plan our finances and how we plan our houses. So I don't want you to feel upset. I don't want you to feel angry if I'm saying a man needs to conquer. I'm not saying a man needs to hit a woman over the head with a club and drag her back to the cave. What I'm saying is that every man is a risk taker in some way, in some respect. And he needs to be able to take those risks and earn the rewards. These are things that are very important to the male psyche. Women need stability. We seek stability. You can look all around you and see examples of that. Again, I'm not talking about how society, constructs these points of view. It's clear that women prefer stability. We know that because we have names for women who seek out stability at the cost of everything else. We call them gold diggers, don't we? They're everywhere. You know a bunch. I know a bunch. The truth is those women it might be fun or funny to look at them like as hoes or, loose women. And I get that. But a lot of it is women just trying to find a stable life for themselves. It's what we do because we're the ones that bear children. We need to make sure that our families will be provided for. That means we have to be careful in picking a partner. We have to pick a partner that can provide. We have to pick a partner that can take risks when we don't want to, that can earn, that can think about those things that we absolutely cannot think about because we must place the nurturing of our families ahead of everything else. That is our biological imperative. So when women require a man to pursue her, what happens is that it's almost a type of a test. It's a dance, really. I've said this before. It's a careful dance between men and women, male and female. And it's not something that you can open a book and see, the step by step of how to do it. There's plenty of books on the psychology of gender and all of that, but this is one of those things that's kind of inexplicable. It's indescribable. You can't quantify it. There is some kind of dance that happens between men and women, and when you mess up that dance, you mess up their opportunities to be happy together. So women need for men to earn them. That's how we know that man can be counted on for stability in the future. And that's how the man knows that she can be counted on to choose him because he worked for her. He earned her and he earned her love. She's not a possession. I know I need to be careful with my language because some of you are already on edge listening to me talk like this. I promise that I can make my case reasonably. A woman needs to know that this man has worked hard enough for her, that she can trust him, that he'll keep working hard for her and their eventual family in the future. And a man needs to know that he has earned something valuable, and nothing valuable comes without work. Nothing valuable comes without you sacrificing something. So the onus of sacrifice really is on the man. And I think modern love has this all wrong. We keep asking women to be the ones to sacrifice. But the onus is on the man to be sacrificial. Then what happens is when he finds a good wife, and that's what the Bible says, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. When a man finds a wife. So men need to be looking, right? Men need to be looking. When a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing because he's worked. He's worked for that. He has given up something. Singlehood, freedom, every weekend on the golf course, the opportunity of the future, in the future, to be sexually active with other people. He's given all that up. He has earned her love. So when a woman proposes to a man, she thwarts that careful dance. I call it the romantic hierarchy. The man must be the pursuer. It is the same way. So I started out this discussion with an example of how, if you want to know what the real kind of instincts on abortion are, tell your 5-year-old what an abortion is. But you don't have to use any extra language. Just use the complete, just middle of the road description of what it is. And that kid is going to be repulsed by it. I think that even though they don't know that it's repulsion they feel, they don't know that. They just think, I can remember my daughter saying, how can this be legal? Because to her mind, what I had described to her was killing a baby, which is literally what I had described to her in so many words. I just didn't use the colorful language because I wanted to gauge her honest reaction. So I think that there is a part of men that are repulsed by women who are too easy, by women who don't make them work. They find it repulsive. Oh, they'll get into bed with you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying men won't get into bed with you. They will get into bed with you because at the end of the day, a man is ruled by one thing. And really, it is what leads him into marriage too. You just got to know, ladies just have to know how to play that game so that it's not being used against you, but it'll be used for you. For good. But a man who has a woman that he has not really had to spend much energy on and not had to work for, one of two things is going to happen, or both things are going to happen. He's going to just treat you as a throwaway. So you'll just be a side chick, right? When he gets bored with you, and that'll happens to everybody. When he gets bored with you, he'll move on to the next one. So you won't be able to trust that he will be faithful to you and a supporter of you because he doesn't see you as valuable. So a guy has to see you as valuable. Or the other thing that will happen is he will stay with that woman. Maybe he'll move in with you. Maybe you'll convince him after a few weeks, move into your house and you'll be happy. And then what'll happen? He won't be paying bills. He won't be helping with your kids. He won't be picking up the dry cleaning or anything like that. For him, this will be a free ride. He hasn't done anything to earn it. And we might be able to look at that guy and say, that guy is I'm going to use a boomer word now, Bama. Such a Bama. That guy is such a loser. He's just sitting on her couch, doesn't do anything. And it's like, yeah, that guy is a loser. But at the same time, he's only doing what he can get away with. That's the thing, ladies. Guys will do what they can get away with. I know it makes you uncomfortable to talk like this, but this is the truth. And I believe that most men will back me up on this. I feel confident to say almost every man will back me up on this. A man will do what he can get away with. So if he can get away with laying on your couch and not paying bills and not helping with your kids and not committing to your family, that is exactly what he's going to do. So it might sound to you like I'm talking as if the power in the relationship belongs to a man, but absolutely not. The power in the relationship belongs to you, the women. 100%. And I believe men will back me up on that too. It's true. Ask yourself, every guy you know who's married, almost every guy there might be a few exceptions. I don't think my husband is one. I think many people look at my husband and look at me and say, how on earth did he end up with her? Like, she's just annoying and loud and cranky. Like, I feel like I've always felt this, like people think maybe my husband is a little too good for me. He is not, by the way. He is not too good for me. But that's what happens in a marriage. You know each other's secrets. But I say all that to say, don't you have a friend who's like been married forever and you're like, oh my God, his wife is such a nag, or how can I don't even know he got married to her. But it seems that way because everyone looks at their guy friends like they're so in control and they're so on top of it. But something happens when you find a woman. What happens is slowly the balance of power shifts, and then the man doesn't really have as much power in the relationship as he imagines he will. Most men do everything for women, and there are a few things they do for themselves, but wars and your job and, you know, the amount of time you spend out with your friends or not. Think about you going to the store and needing to pick up the right type of milk, or you get nagged to death by your wife. Women have a lot of power in the relationship. And so we thwart that power when we try to take control and shift the balance. It needs to be the man that is taking control in the beginning of the relationship. A man needs to conquer, and he needs to know that your love is worth earning. And by the way, all those men, those wives you're looking at and you're like, I can't believe he ended up with her, they're so unhappy. He's not unhappy. He's fine. He loves his wife. He loves his wife. Trust me, he would not be able to tie his shoes without her. He needs her. And he would be devastated if she left. You don't know the dynamics in everyone's marriage. Everyone has an idea from the outside, but it's very different from the inside. But it's not uncommon for most men to spend a lot of their time trying to make their wives happy, because in a committed relationship, it is typically the woman that has the imbalance of power, in my opinion. And if you don't, then perhaps there's a problem with how you entered it, or there might be another issue, like you're in an abusive relationship. And I'm not trying to encourage women to take a lot of power or to act powerful, or I'm only talking about the natural back and forth between a man and a woman. That's all I'm talking about. I think this is a good point for me to say that, because this is what my friend Mickey told me when we were on the radio, that this is a heteronormative conversation. For some of my audience, you might not even understand what that means. It just means if you're heterosexual, you see things a certain way, and that's the point of view you're talking from. I am heterosexual. I see things a certain way, and that is the point of view I'm talking from. Okay, I'm never going to talk about same-sex relationships. I have no experience in them. I have no desire to be in any, and it would be disingenuous and ridiculous for me to even pretend that I could speak to the romantic relationship between two women the same way I do between a man and a woman. So you're never going to hear me talk about that stuff. If that's a problem for you, understood. Bye. Come back next episode. If not, I'm going to keep going with my heteronormative arguments. All right. Women are receivers and men are givers. Men need to give. If they don't fulfill this role, they become emasculated. Half of the part of the toxic masculinity that feminists are always complaining today about, half of the problem with toxic masculinity is that those are men who have been driven to hypermasculinity because they've been neutered of their masculinity. Everything is geared towards girls these days. Boys practically don't exist in school anymore, except to be pointed out as predators or people who need to be reformed in some way. We over-medicate boys in the classroom. We teach to the psyche and academic needs of girls, because girls learn differently than boys. And we actually punish boy energy in schools in America. So toxic masculinity in a lot of ways is an overreaction to being emasculated in other areas. Men, they go to college, they have to sign consent contracts before they can even, they're already a rapist the second they step on campus. Just imagine the psychological effect of growing up your whole life like that. You've been told that you can't even say something nice. You can't even give a woman a compliment. You can't open the door for her. You can't make a comment on her physical appearance. All of these things will get you canceled or shamed or laughed at. So we've created a generation of soy boys who, some of them go on to become actually, yes, toxic in their masculinity because it's an overreaction. We need to let boys and girls do what their bodies and their minds and their hearts are meant to do. We need to. That is how you get decent and good men. You got to let them be boys. Men are givers and women are receivers, and even evolution and biology backs this up. Even your anatomy is set up that way. Men are givers, women are receivers. There's a reason for that. I don't even need to take this one to church. I'll just take this one to science, which in my mind are kind of the same thing. I mean, science is just the proof of what God has made. But anyways, another show for another day. Evolution has set us up so that we have what we need. And then we develop what we need, right? So if humans have needed darker skin to deal with the sun and the effects of living in an area where there's lots of sun, then evolution has helped that process along and has changed how we look over time and all of that stuff. Evolution has decided that there's a reason why life needs a man and a woman to be created, to procreate. There, for whatever reason, I'm not going to break down that reason. That's, again, perhaps another show, but there is a reason. And so to facilitate that reason, nature has created us, or God, if you want to say God. I want to say God, but I'm making the natural point for you. Nature has created us, evolved us, so that men have to give and women have to receive in order to create life. If that was a useless process, we wouldn't need it. It's a process that reflects how we treat each other in real life. So when we take away the ability of a man to give, whether it's a ring or love or to pay a bill or to just give affection, when we take away that opportunity from a man, I think it emasculates a man in a certain way. Men need to be givers and women need to be receivers. We give enough. We give a lot. We will spend our whole lives giving. Once you say yes to that man, you will spend your whole life giving and giving and giving. You'll give to him. You'll give to your kids. You'll give to your neighbors. You'll give to your church, your best friend. You will never stop giving. The only person you won't be giving to will be yourself. And that's why you need a man who will give to you. You need to make sure that guy's the right one. The man must be the pursuer. He must be. Again, I go back to your natural instincts. It's repulsive to a man. I think when a woman pursues too much, again, he's going to let his hormones do the talking. But honestly, there's a reason why we say that phrase. We have this phrase, well, she's not the kind of girl you bring home to mom. That phrase isn't talking about a good girl who saves herself for marriage or who doesn't sleep around and who isn't forward and who is content to let a man pursue her because she knows her value. That's not what that phrase is talking about. That phrase is talking about a girl who's too easy, too loose, gives it up too fast, does all the work in the relationship. Ladies, let me tell you, if you are doing all the work in the relationship now, it will not change after marriage. It will not change after marriage. It will get worse. So don't fool yourself into thinking you're going to change everybody. But the man must be the pursuer. That's how you know that he knows you're worth his time. And that's how he knows that you know you're worth his time. Get it? Did I confuse you? It's a dance, y'all. All I'm saying is it's a dance. When a woman takes the responsibility to get on her knee and get on one knee and give him the ring, give him the proposal, she robs that man of the burden and the blessing of responsibility. I'll say it again because I know some of you just perked up. When a woman proposes to a man, or beyond proposals, when a woman does all the work for a man in a relationship, she robs that man of the burden and the blessing of responsibility. She robs herself of being thought of as a woman whose love is worthy enough to be pursued, to be fought for, to be won. Don't rob your man of that. When you let a man be a man, there are so many great rewards. When you try to take over his job or you try to make him into something he doesn't want to be, you rob him of that. I guess I could do a little tiny segue here about how we let men off the hook for a lot of things, even outside of this marriage thing. I know a lot of women who move men into their homes very quickly. It's not unusual. They're single moms, they're lonely, and they need help, really. And so they'll put up with a lot as long as there's a warm body in the house, you know? And then these are the same women who will complain that this man's not stepping up, that this man's not paying his dues, he's not paying the bills. He's, I work all day, he doesn't work. I come home, I got to cook, clean, I yell at him, I do this, I do that. But it's like your stories aren't inspiring any kind of commiseration from me. I'll just be honest. I get that you're hurt, but you're hurt because you hurt yourself. You're doing it to yourself. You don't have to let that man sit on your couch and drink all your booze and eat all your food. Or maybe he does go to work and he has a part-time job, but he's not like working towards anything with you. Or and he doesn't seem to be working for you. You don't have to let that man stay in your house. You really don't. You've taught him how to treat you. So a man's going to get away with what a man can be. A man will step up when you need him to step up. If he wants to, if he wants a place to live, he needs to pay rent. And if he can't pay rent, then he has to go somewhere else until he can come up with the rent. Do you know what I mean? These are tough decisions that we have to make because you want him. You love him. He's good company. And he comes through time to time when you need someone. When you need a few extra bucks or you need a babysitter for your kids. I get it. But ladies, finding a good man and turning that good man into a healthy relationship it takes work. It takes effort and it takes making some tough decisions. Sometimes we got to make those decisions for those men. And we got to tell them, no, brother, you ain't doing it. You can't come through. I can't trust you. I'm worth more than this. And yeah, it'll hurt and maybe you're going to debt and maybe you'll be real lonely for a while. But what you won't be is dragged down by some loser that you let into your home because you don't have enough confidence to move forward on your own. That was a sidebar. I'm sorry if it sounded a little forward. But I do think in these matters it's best to be honest and honest about how I feel. Of course, if you disagree, you have the opportunity to hit back at me. I'll give you that information in a little bit. So men need to be given responsibility. It's not like women can't do it. Women can do anything. Ladies, y'all can do anything. I know. I was raised by a single mom. I've had all kinds of experiences in my life. I've moved all over this country and Canada all by myself. I've done a lot of things in my life. I get it. Raw, girl power. We can do it. You can do anything by yourself. You don't need a man to have a baby. You just need a sperm that doesn't even require anyone attached to it these days. You don't need a man to own a home. You don't need a man to go to work. You don't need a man for anything. You can do whatever a man can do. You can be a leader in your house. You can be the breadwinner. You can do anything. But most of the time when women do what men are supposed to do, men won't do it at all. You got to make room for that man to be a man. Make room for him to show you that he can be a man. But when you put your hand up and say, I got this, you're telling him that you don't need him to provide for you. But that is literally his biological imperative. He must provide for you. If he doesn't, he doesn't feel like a man. And that's when men get crazy. That's when they get weird. Make room for him to provide for you. Now, if you make that room and he's still not stepping up, he got to go. You gotta leave him. It wasn't the one for you. This brings me to my next point. A friend of mine said, well, Kira, you've been married 21 years. You got a great husband, but you were lucky. You got married young. You found a partner young and he was a good guy. But the rest of us, we're aging, we're getting older. And if we just sit around waiting, we're going to miss that guy. And if this guy doesn't step up the way we want him to, and we push him aside for the next guy, and he doesn't step up the way we want him to, and we push him aside for the next guy, before you know it, you're alone. I hear you. I hear you guys. Because I get it. I'm getting older now. And while I definitely am not at this point in my life having to worry about a partner or finding someone to spend my life with and create a life with, I am more and more aware of how much time is passing and how quickly it's passing. So I get it if you're getting up to be my age or older and you just haven't found the partner, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And maybe you're just like, I'm doing it wrong and I need to be more bold about this. I can't speak to what the dating pool is like where you are, but I think regardless of what it's like, you can't change the nature of men and women. At some point, if you've gotten to a certain point in your life and you haven't gotten what you've wanted out of the people you're dating, you need to step back and ask yourself, why am I attracting this type of person? Why am I not attracting the type of person who is going to be interested and enthralled with me and will eventually want to settle down with me? Why am I not attracting that kind of person? We all put out energy, spiritual vibes, pheromones, call it what you want. We all have an energy around us, and it's the kind of people we attract. That's why people who have been abused in their lives often attract abusers, right? It's not rocket science. I'm not saying anything controversial here, guys. Nothing. This is 101, human nature 101. Don't you have a girlfriend who was abused as a child and she keeps going and finding abusers, right? Do you have a guy whose dad beat him up when he was a kid and now he beats up his family? You have a girl whose mom was on drugs her whole life and now she's on drugs. These are things, these things make us who we are. We're surrounded by energy and we pull the energy in and it becomes who we are. So you need to ask yourself, what energy, what vibes am I putting out? Or where am I putting them out that I can't find this person? Because let me tell you a little something about Mr. and Mrs. Davis. This Mr. and Mrs. Davis, not Faith and Victor Davis, who just celebrated 58 years, but they've got their own story to tell that will blow you away. Talking about sacrifice and commitment and pulling it together when all you want to do is fall apart. That's a story right there. But I know a lot of people who have only recently come to know my husband and I really feel like we're just a good match and he's a good guy and I just got lucky. But that's not our love story. That's actually not it. We met in college and he was a terrible boyfriend. He was awful. He's my first boyfriend, to be honest. I never even dated in high school. I never had one interest from a guy in high school. I was not an attractive girl, or at least I didn't think so. I lived in I lived in Canada, in northern Canada. There were no other black people around. So I was really like, ew, no one wanted to be with me anyway. I was just so different. So I didn't date in high school, but when I came stateside, I moved away from there as soon as I could. And I came stateside and it was like, oh, shoot. Guys like me. I could have gone crazy. I thank the good Lord that he caught me in time because I could have gone crazy with all the attention. And that's what happens, right? You get out of high school and you realize, oh, there's this whole big old world out there and nothing that happened here matters. But he was my first boyfriend. And I remember he was a jock. He was like the popular football player. He's big football player, really popular on campus. And I was a theater nerd and I was a freshman. I'm like 18 years old. And I remember really liking him and him telling me he loved me like pretty quick from the start. He was like, I think I'm in love with you. And I remember thinking, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what love is. I'm 18 and I've never had a guy tell me that he loves me. I don't even know if I'm worth being loved. So I remember telling God at that time, I don't know what real love looks like. I'm just going to trust that when I see it, I'll know it. And that wasn't it. It wasn't it. And I knew it. I knew it when he broke up with me so that he could go to the dance with Stacy Lifetog. I knew it when he broke up with me so he could go to the dance with another girl. He wasn't the one, but you know what happened? He came back. He broke up with me. It broke my heart. But then months later, he came back, crawling back. I love you. I made a mistake. That was ridiculous. And so we did the whole thing again. And again, after a few months, I was like, no, you know what? You're not the type of boyfriend I want. So I left him. I'm like, this is not, I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it's not supposed to be this. I'm not getting the right type of attention. I don't know what I'm looking for, but it ain't this. And we tried it again, folks, all through college, off and on. And each time I said, you know what? After that first time, I learned my lesson. And I said, you know what? This ain't it either. I love you. You're gorgeous. I mean, A beautiful man. He still is, but in college, he really was just a beautiful man. You're talented, you're popular, but you're not a good boyfriend. And this isn't what I want. And it broke my heart every time. I did love him. I thought I loved him. I mean, now we've been married 21 years and I'm thinking like, what was I thinking? That was not even close to love what we had. Love that takes some time to cook up. And now I'd love that man because I know him. But at the time, you're young, you think this is love, and I loved him. But I left him. And I left him for years. I went away and did my own thing, and he did his own thing, and we didn't have much contact. Sometimes we'd write a Christmas card or two. We'd keep up with each other. How are you doing? But we went our own ways. That was a hard thing to do. It wasn't until later, a few years later in our lives, when I moved to the area that he was living and we reconnected. And then it was like pretty quick. Once we reconnected, then we were like, you know what? We know that this is what we want to do. We do want to be partners. I'm sorry to bore you with that long, unromantic story. But the truth is, the good relationships you see in front of you aren't accidents. People have made choices and tough decisions. And I had to make a decision. Thankfully, I was young when I had to make it. I get it. It would probably be a whole different ballgame if I was 40 or 45 and having to make it. But I was in the position of having to say, am I going to make this person earn my respect and my love and my hand? Or am I just going to settle for what this is because I just never know when I'm going to get the opportunity again? There are decisions that you have to make for yourself. They will set the tone for your relationship. They will set the tone for what things look like moving forward. And they will set the tone for how this man is going to treat your relationship in the future. Do you notice that I'm saying all of these things as if they're responsibilities for women? I'm not really talking to men. I'm talking to women. It's not an accident. It's not just because I'm a woman and I'm talking to you from my point of view. It's because women are the gatekeepers of healthy relationships. And that's the God's honest truth. We are. And we can ruin a relationship or we can help one thrive. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't have a good partner. So don't think I'm letting men off the hook. Men have to step up, and maybe some man will have a podcast where he'll explain why a man should be the one to propose, and you can go listen to that podcast. But women have so much. This is why I was telling you earlier, you have way more power than society gives you credit for. Modern American society tells women we don't have any control. That this is a man's world, which I totally believe it's a man's world, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that we don't have any measure of control or power. In fact, we have great power. I think the power is imbalanced. If you ask me, I think women have most of the power in relationships. And we have the power to decide for a man if he will be worth letting into our lives. If you're concerned about a man waiting too long and you just missing your opportunity for marriage, first of all, let me say this. If he waited too long, he wasn't your man in the first place. So if he didn't get there, he wasn't your man. You didn't lose your chance because you waited too long. If he wanted you, he would have told you. Now, the other thing is though that it's okay and it's absolutely necessary that you make your intentions known. So especially if you're older. If you're younger, if you're young in your 20s, like I was when I was 18 when I first met my husband, I didn't have the pressure of I didn't have to let him know, hey, I'm a one relationship kind of girl. I believe in saving sex till marriage. I don't want to be all loosey goosey. I didn't have to have that conversation because I was young enough to where, time was not an issue. I had all the time in the world at 18. I mean, hey, I was never going to die. It was never going to be 2020. So I had all the time in the world, but I did make it clear in my countenance and how I carried myself. And that was a big factor for why my husband kept coming back. If you ask him, you can ask him to this day. We weren't sexually active. He had girlfriends. We were both sexually active. Me, not so much, but I had a couple partners, but we were both sexually active outside of the relationship in other time periods of our life. But when we were together, we weren't sexually active. He knew that I valued sex and I wanted to try to save it for marriage. And that's how he treated me. And I asked him once, we used to lead our youth group at church, and we were talking about dating. And I asked him once, do you think we would have been married if I had had sex with you in college? And he said, no, not because you're not amazing, but because I wouldn't have really tried to pursue you after. I just would have gotten what I wanted. And so there would have been no reason to really pursue you. And then the pursuit was what made me realize, oh, I actually really like this person. She's somebody I want to spend time with. So it was me using my judgment about what I was worth that kind of brought about this development in our relationship and brought about a proposal. So I didn't need to hit him over the head with that when I was 18 years old. But if you're 40, 45 and you've been dating this guy for 5 years, 6 years, or whatever, and you're ready to take that next step and he is nowhere near offering you a ring, absolutely make your intentions known. 100%. Sit down in a time of peace, not in a time when you're arguing, in a time when this conversation is the last thing on his mind. If you're out to dinner, if you're watching your favorite show, if you're just chilling out after a day's work, you should not be arguing when you have this conversation. It should be a friendly and loving conversation. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you saying, hey, I want marriage. I want a family, and I'm getting older, and I need you to think about if that's what you want to. And if so, then I would like a proposal at some point soon here. Because soon I'm going to have to go look for someone else because I deserve more than what I'm getting right now. You can have that conversation. That's actually a conversation you should have, especially the older you get, ladies. You should not be wasting your time with men who have no intention of proposing to you. By the way, you're going to put off that proposal if you move in with that man. I just read a statistic that said living together before marriage delays a marriage by 2.5 years. I think that's a conservative estimate. It's probably like a average. But if I just had to go anecdotally, I'd say it works. It's a lot more. You're not going to get that proposal quicker by moving in with him, ladies. You may get it eventually. I have plenty of friends who are married who lived together before they were married, but it actually delays the wedding if you move in. So move out. That's the first thing I would say. If you're living with your guy and you want a proposal and he's being slow about it, move out. You got to give him a reason to pursue you. You got to give him a reason to earn your hand. You got to give him a reason. You can't just clamp your hand over his and say, take it. You got to give him a reason to reach out to you. A man will do exactly what you let him do. If you're going to let him live in your house and you're going to play house, and even if you're sharing the bills or responsibilities, you're going to let him do that. There's no reason for him to give you a ring. What's he missing? Nothing. He has a woman who wakes up to him every morning, cooks his meal, raises his kids, pays bills with him, goes on trips and has fun with him. He's got nothing left to earn. Those are rights. Those are privileges. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. That's not what I meant to say. Those are privileges. A lot of women giving them out like they're rights. Like a man has a right to this just because he smiled at you or he's good in bed or he makes you feel happy. Those are privileges and they have to be earned, and men who don't earn them often act accordingly. A man can't be pushed, and if you're not getting the proposal, if you've been waiting and he just doesn't seem to get it, you have to leave. There's no, you getting on your knee and proposing to him is taking that, it's taking power away from him. He's going to be naturally repulsed by it. Even if he says yes, I believe that what it will do is it will set up your marriage for deeper, more tragic consequences moving forward, because you've already gone in. Now you're going into your marriage with the tone of you're the one in control. You're the pursuer, and a good marriage can't work that way. And it won't be what shuts your marriage down. It'll be other things, but it'll be because you went into your marriage already on the wrong foot. So don't do it, ladies. If he's not proposing to you and what you want is a proposal, and you've told him that what you expect is a proposal, you cannot make him do it. And you don't want to make him do it. You don't want that guy. You don't want a guy who's doing something because he feels like he has to. You're worth more than that. You're worth way more than that. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, women, but we're actually not as powerless as we think. We actually have the most power, and we can extract what we want from, to be clinical about it. We can extract what we want from men by being women, by just being true to our nature and by asking them to be true to their nature. A man loves to feel like a man. That's the whole thing. You know, when a lot of women are like, well, I earn more than my guy and it's causing problems. Should a man feel comfortable with his wife earning more? Well, there are plenty of women who earn more than their husbands for whatever reasons. You know, maybe you're a psychologist and your husband is an artist or an actor. You know, there are all kinds of reasons why that would happen. But if the point is that you have to make your husband a man in other parts of the relationship. If he's not going to be the one putting the bread on the table, you need to make sure, very sure, that in all other aspects of your life, that he is the pursuer, that he is the risk taker, that he is in charge. But you're the one who decides that, ladies. That's the thing. I know some of you are like, yeah, I don't need a man. You're the one who decides. That's what makes you so powerful. You're the one who decides if he gets to be the man in the relationship or the loser who sits on the couch. But you don't decide it by nagging a guy to death. By the way, you make your intentions known. You make your intentions clear. You do it once. You don't nag him. If you have to nag him, he ain't the one for you. If he doesn't want to give you what you need to have the strength, the courage, and frankly, the balls to just get up and leave. You deserve better, but no one's going to give you better. And nagging people is not going to make them be better. You must call a man must be called to action. And a proposal is a call to action. It is the call to action every man needs. I think you proposing to a man thwarts the romantic hierarchy. It sets up your relationship for a bad precedent. And it takes away the natural roles of male and female, which are to pursue and be pursued. And that is a bad way to go into any marriage. Don't do it, ladies. If you've already told him you want that ring and he ain't giving you the ring, move on. Okay, as usual, you can get in on this conversation. You can go ahead and email me what you think about the issue. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm being outdated? Am I just old fashioned? Things don't work like this anymore. I don't know what I'm talking about. Say whatever you want. I want to hear your argument. Make a good argument. If it's good enough, I'll do a listener response, but make it good. Make it thoughtful. Not just you're sexist. Okay. Make it thoughtful. Think about it. Tell me what you think. You can email me at kiradavis422@gmail. That's Kira, Kira Davis 422@gmail.com, or find me on Twitter at realkiradavis. Or if you type in my name on Facebook, my handle at realkiradavis, my public page will actually come right up. So you can tune in, check things out over there. You can listen to the archives of the show and see how it's done, see how we do it here, what we've been doing so far. I've got so many great topics coming up in this next year. And the response in 2019 to this podcast has been, I honestly, I'm not making this up now. I actually have never done a project where I've had this much positive response this quickly. I can't believe how interested people are. And I'm not doing anything. I'm just talking. I'm just giving you my, pathetic opinions. But I think what people appreciate, if I could just speak for you for a moment, and feel free to email me if it's a little different. But I think what people appreciate is the fact that they're being challenged. You're being challenged to really think about your positions. And I try not to be insulting. I mean, I'm sarcastic. I'm a smart ass. Like, I might have some very bold and forward things to say. And I also might make some jokes here and there. But I don't believe in treating the person you're talking to like they're stupid. I don't think you're stupid. This is why I like to do this podcast, because I really feel like I can persuade you. And if I can't, I feel like you're at least going to be interested in the conversation. And you'll at least come to a more clear point of view on how you see things. So I just see this as a positive exchange, and it's not insulting. And I'm not up here calling anyone who doesn't agree with me a Nazi, or, you're not going to get blocked from my page or get put on blast on Twitter. I think people like that. I think people want more of that. I think people want to feel more encouraged to be able to think through their arguments. And I think a lot of people don't believe that they have anything good to say about these types of things. And you do. And when you hear someone who's not afraid to express what they think, I believe that that makes you bolder in letting people know who you are. Like, what you think matters. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people feel like, who cares about what I think? Well, who cares about my opinion on this issue? But what you think matters. Your perspective matters. This world takes all kinds of people, not just one kind of person. We need you. Okay, guys. Happy 2020. I'm so glad to be back with you all. We're going to have so much fun in 2020. In the meantime, you can check me out on Twitter at realkiradavis. Don't forget to tune into FCB Radio Network, where you can find all kinds of shows, different hosts. We got so much going on. We got music projects coming out. I mean, this network is about to blow up in 2020. So keep your dial tuned here. I'm Kira Davis, and I'll catch you next week on Just Listen to Yourself.